back, and in this video we're going to continue doing this bearing plate, except this time we're going to do it in Inventor. And I'll show you some things that you can do that'll hopefully understand some of the commands that Inventor do. Now once again, I'll ask you if you got anything that you would like to see me do in AutoCAD or in Inventor, please drop a comment below, and if you find any usefulness out of this video, just hit the like button for me. Starting in Inventor, once you get it started, and this is kind of the home page, and I'm using Inventor 2022. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the modeling application. But one of the things I notice about my drawing is that it's in millimeters. So if I go ahead and I click the parts one, and it's set up right now to use inches, I'm just going to click on the new icon here, and it should bring you open a dialog box that looks like this. And what I'm going to do is expand the English US, and I can click on the metric, and then I can tell it that I want a standard metric millimeter IPT. So I can click this and then click the create button, or you can double click on this icon. Either one will work. And then you would usually give Inventor, depending on how fast or slow your computer is, give it a little bit to load up and get ready to go. Alright, so anytime I'm usually doing creative modeling or 3D modeling or some kind of modeling like this, I try to keep in mind and keep everything separate, and remember that I typically have 4 of the primary commands to use in order to create a 3D model. So those are going to be extrude, revolve, sweep, and loft. Now in Inventor or whatever kind of other program that you may use, they have some other stuff that you can use that'll help speed it up. But primarily, it's going to be these 4. Alright. So now my view cube is set to front, and let's go ahead and create that first sketch. And you can see that I get the 3 planes to show up, and depending on which way I want to create this, and I want to create it exactly like my drawing was showing me, with the isometric facing to the left. Just as a recap, anytime you see an isometric view, you can safely say that this side is going to be my front side, this is going to be my right side, and you can kind of see the top if you're kind of imagining looking overhead. So I'm going to create my drawing using this as my template of how I want to create it, because this is the way it'll come out in the drawing portion. So in this video, what I'm going to try to do is only cover the modeling part of it. In the next video, which will be the last one on doing this bearing plate, I will do the Inventor Drafting portion of it, and it should be super simple. All we need to do is create the 3 views in isometric, just like I did in AutoCAD modeling. Okay, so now that I know that I'm going to create this, I'm going to use the XY plane because that is parallel to the front plane of my view cube. So I'll go ahead and select XY. The next thing I always notice is just make sure that I'm reading the word front and it's not upside down or sideways. And the reason I say that is because that tends to help you anytime that you want to use some of your constraints up here, especially the horizontal and vertical. Sometimes they will get twisted a little bit, but overall, if I keep these words right, they try to stay in line most of the time. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a line. I'm just going to draw a line going straight across 144. Kind of scroll out a little bit here. Let's pan over. I want to go up a distance of 12. And you'll notice that I am getting my construction or constraint popping up to the right side, and you can see that I have a perpendicular here. So when I type in the 12, that line is perpendicular to the first one. I want this one to be horizontal or perpendicular to the last line I drew. I can type in 144 again, and then I can go and click on that green dot there. And this is totally constrained. Now I know it's a little bit of overkill with the extra 144 in the middle here, but I'm going to do some more creating here. I'm just going to go ahead and create a line here, and I'm going to start underneath here. I'll go up a distance, and all I'm doing is just putting in some kind of frame here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and trim this stuff out. So I'm going to use the trim command. And then I'll just start trimming between these lines and between here. The distance that I'm going to put, so I'm going to add a dimension, and I'll select this line. And this distance should be 60, or the diameter of that circle. Now I can use a shortcut here to get these lines to be even with each other without having to figure out what the actual measurement is. So I can use the equal constraint, which is here, and then I can select this line and then select this one. Now I should need a couple more constraints, mainly the one that's in reference with this center point. So I'm going to go ahead and add a dimension from this edge to this endpoint. I'll come down and place this dimension, left click to place it. Once it's reading you the directions or the numbers or how long the length is, go ahead and select on this top dimension, and you can see I get the the fx beside it, which stands for function. So that's going to be that dimension divided by 2. And now that's going to move this over to the middle. Alright, so now I need a couple of more dimensions. I'm going to need a dimension that's telling from this distance of this line to how tall this is. So I'm going to add a dimension from here to here, and this is going to be 38. Now I'll refer back to the drawing here in a little bit just to show you what that is. Okay. And it seems that I have a number that's kind of lined up a little bit sideways here. And that usually just tells me that one of these lines or endpoints is kind of out of line. And you can see that this line is slightly obscured. So I'm going to use the vertical constraint, and I'll go ahead and select that line, and you're going to see that the 144 will straighten out. Okay, so I need one more dimension, and that dimension, if I move this up, it's going to be in reference to all of my lines that I created in reference to the center point here. So I can make this one to sit directly on top of that. I can use a constraint, or I can use a dimension. So if I use the coincident constraint, I can select coincidence, select my center point and this bottom line, and now my shape will snap to it. If you look down in the lower right corner, you'll see that it is fully constrained. Now I'm ready to go ahead and finish this sketch. Just going to zoom out a little bit. And now I'm going to use the extrude command. And then I have to tell it the distance that I want to extrude it. So I'm going to tell it that I want it to go, depending on which direction. I'm going to send this a direction of 42. Going in this direction, I can change the direction depending on which way I want it, or I can even split it. But I'm just going to type in 42 and send it this direction. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go to the back of this. So I'm going to select this isometric view on my view cube. You'll notice that I'm at the back plane. I'll select this surface, and this last icon is going to let me create a new sketch. I want to project geometry. I'm just going to project in this top line. Then I'll go to circle. I'm going to click on the green dot here. Then I'll place it along this green dot. Now, one thing I like to do just to help me speed things up when it comes to doing the extruding part is that I'm going to go ahead and make this line construction. So I'll select this line, right click, and choose construction. Let's go ahead and finish this sketch. I'll go to extrude, and it looks like I didn't get both of the lines, and that's what I was trying to avoid. And I'll show you what's going to happen here if I go back and I make sure I get both of those lines. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. I'm going to double click the icon where it's saying sketch 2. Put a window around it. Right click on that line, and then tell it that I want it construction. Finish sketch, and then go to extrude. And this time you'll see that it will totally light up that whole entire sketch for me. So that's a huge benefit of using the construction option. I'm going to turn that to go the other direction. I'm going to give it a distance of 60. And now I have to tell it, instead of subtracting from my shape, I want that to actually be a part of it. So I'm going to tell it to join it. And then I'll select OK. Let's go ahead and create another sketch along this back face. So I'm going to select this face. I'll select the little plus here on the side. I'm going to project in these two lines and that top arc. Let's go ahead and draw a line from this endpoint. And then if I kind of go along this line, you'll see that I will get a tangent mark. So go ahead and select tangent of that arc. I'm going to escape. And just like I did before, I'm going to select these yellow lines. Now I put a window around this one. I have to hold down the control button and select this one. Then I'm going to right click on that line. And then I'll tell it that all of that is construction. Finish sketch. Next, let's go ahead and make this rib that's on the back, and we're going to do that by using the rib command. And by default, it's automatically set up to the normal to the plane, but we're going to go ahead and select parallel to the plane. And this is where things you got to kind of get a little bit creative with it. So I know the thickness is going to be 9. And now I have to play with a couple of different numbers to make, a couple of different options to make this show up. It's mainly going to be between these two and these two. So you can see that as you keep playing with these, so what I like to do is I'll select one and I'll just toggle between these two. And if that don't come up, I'll select this one and toggle between the two. All right, so you can see that my rib is formed. Go ahead and select OK. Let's go ahead and mirror that rib by using the mirror command. I have it, it's asking me right now to select a feature. I'm going to select the rib. I'm going to come down to where it says mirror plane. I'll select that icon. I'm going to expand the origin. And now I'm looking for the plane that's going right through it, which is the YZ. You can see it gives me the preview of it on the other side. Go ahead and select OK. Let's go ahead and spin this back around by selecting now my view cube. And next, let's go ahead and do our fillet. So I'll go to fillet. I'm going to change my radius to 18. Select that inside corner. Select on my view cube going around this direction. And that is 18. Go ahead and select that as OK. Now I have my 18 fillets on both sides. Next, let's go ahead and do the holes. So I'm going to select this top face. I'm going to create a sketch. And you can see that sometimes I don't mind working this way. But if you want to rotate it around, you can just select this icon here. Let's go ahead and put a couple of points in. And the reason I like to do points is because if there are holes of the same dimensions, it's easier for me to do it that direction or do it that way. Let's go ahead and go to dimension. I'm going to select this point and tell it that it's 108. Once again, all this stuff can be shown here, and that's why I'm getting the 108 centers. So these need to be divided into 108. That 38, or that first little hill that I made, that's where I got the 38 from. And that 60 I got from this diameter. So I kind of created that shape going around it. Everything else should be kind of self-explanatory. Okay, so I have my center separated at 108. Let's go ahead and project in a center line going right down the middle here. The way that I'm going to do that is use project geometry, and then I'm going to find the axis that's running right down the middle. So you can see the x-axis is running along the back, the y is coming straight up. Now if I select the z edge, I can see that it's going through it. Okay, I'll just hit escape to clear the command. And now if I want to get down to the face where I can see that line actually going through it, we can use the slice geometry here. And you can also use the function key 7 to toggle that. So if I go there, you'll see that it will come down to that plane. Let's go ahead and use a dimension. Select this point and this line. I'm going to left click and place that dimension. Now once I get the numbers, or it's asking me for numbers, that's when I'll go and select the 108 and divide that by 2. That'll keep both of these in line with each other. Next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that these are horizontal. So I'm going to select horizontal. I'm going to select this point. Then I'll select that point. And that'll make sure that they are horizontal with each other. I need one more dimension. So let's go ahead and put a dimension from this bottom line to that center of that point. And that's going to be 16. It should be fully constrained, and if I look at the bottom right corner, it is fully constrained. And now that I'm going to use the hole command, and holes only look for points, so there's no need to go ahead and make these construction. But just to be at a good practice, I would always recommend that you get out of whatever command you're in. Select this one, hold down the control button, and select your other one. Right click on that line and make them construction. And like I said, it's just a super good practice of doing that. Go ahead and finish the sketch. Use the hold command. And you can see by default, those center points would already light up. Let's go ahead and change this number to 12. I have both of my circles put in now. Put OK. Go back to the hold command. And this time it's not going to look for points. It's going to look for basically a plane that I want to put it on, which is here. And then what is it concentric to? So I'm just going to select this top cylinder. And you'll see that it will locate that in the middle. Let's go ahead and make this number 36. And all of those holes, when I use those commands, they were through holes. Meaning that if I come back to this, I'm just double clicking on the icon. You'll see that I have the through option or simple hole option, and I want it to go through all. Alright, so I'm going to spin this back around in the isometric view. And now that should be everything that I need on this model. Okay, so that probably concludes all of the 3D portion of what I need to do in Inventor. In the next video, you're going to see me do the drafting portion. And like I said before I started this video, is that if there's anything you would like to see me do in this program, please let me know. And if you found any usefulness in this video, go ahead and hit the like button for me. Thank you for watching.